Today, we're going to program a melody, bass line, kick, and snare drum into a single Mother-32. To start, make sure your unit looks just like mine or the patch graphic you see on the screen. We'll start by making the bass drum. We're going to use the LFO at audio rate. So we'll patch the LFO triangle to the external audio in and turn the mix knob all the way to the right. Now we should be able to hear the LFO if we push a key and turn the rate knob up into the audible frequencies. Next, we'll use the envelope generator to control the pitch of our LFO. Place another patch cable from the EG output to the LFO rate input. Now when you trigger, you should hear a bass drum sound if you turn the LFO rate down. Notice that every key sounds the same pitch, since we haven't routed any keyboard pitch information to the LFO rate. Next, we'll use our noise generator to make our snare drum. In order to hear both the noise and the bass drum, we'll have to use the VC mix. Remove the cable from external audio and plug it into mix 1. Then patch another cable from your noise output to mix 2. Finally, patch the VC mix output to our external audio input. Now, when you trigger a note and the VC mix is all the way to the left, you'll hear a bass drum. But when it's all the way to the right, you'll hear a snare. Now we'll take advantage of the voltage from the keyboard to effectively move the VC mix knob for us. Patch the KB to the VC mix control and turn the VC mix knob to center. Now if you use your octave shift button to move to the lowest octave and play a note, you'll hear a bass drum. Similarly, if you move all the way up to the top octave, you'll hear a snare drum. You'll notice we haven't used the VCO yet. Let's move the mix knob all the way back to the left to hear that, and we can start programming our bass line. Move down to the 3rd octave. You can make sure the current patch has no previous sequence data by erasing it, holding Shift, Reset, and Pattern at the same time. Now let's record our bass line in keyboard mode. Hold Shift and run stop to begin recording. Now play in your bass line. When you're done, hit Run Stop to exit record mode, and you can hear it back by pressing Run. For more comprehensive instructions on how to use the sequencer, check out our video on sequencer basics. By default, the assignable output in the Mother-32 will send voltage every time there's an accent on a note in the sequencer. If you've changed the assignable output on your Mother-32, check the manual to see how to change it back. Now patch the assign to the mix CV. This will allow us to use the accent to turn the mix knob to the right. We'll start with the mix knob about halfway up. Now let's add a bass drum pattern. Since all of the notes in the bass drum are relatively low, the VC mix knob is effectively being turned to the left already, where the bass drum is. All we need to do is add an accent to move the mix knob to the right, where the bass drum is, and allow the bass drum to be heard. It's easiest to add accents in step record mode. Hold Shift and Step to enter step record mode. Now press Run to hear your bass line. We can press 1 through 8 to see the first page of our sequence and hold Shift and 1 to enter the first step. Now I'll add an accent by pressing the Reset Accent button. We can repeat anywhere else that we want a bass drum. 9 through 16 will move us to the next page. Now let's add some snare drums. A note in the highest octave will effectively move the VC mix knob to the right, and if it's accented, it will also move the mix knob to the right. This will let us hear a snare drum. Since every bass drum has an accent already, we'll just change the pitch of the bass drums on step 5 of each page to turn them into snare drums. Hold Shift and Step to put us back into step record mode, and run stop to hear playback. Now push 1 through 8 to put us back on the first page, and Shift and Step 5 to enter that step. Now we'll just go to the top octave using the octave Shift button and enter the top note. Repeat for each snare drum. Now let's add our melody. We want to use the keyboard voltage now to control the cutoff frequency of the filter as well as the VC mix knob that it's already controlling. In order to do this, we're going to use the mult. Remove the cable from the VC mix control and plug it into the mult input. Now plug the mult 1 output into the VC mix control to preserve our previous patch. Now we can plug the mult 2 output to additionally route the KB to the VCF cutoff. If we press run to hear playback, we can use the cutoff knob to get a bass sound that we like. As you can hear, the high note on the snare drum is moving that cutoff back to the top in order to hear the snare drum fully. Now, if we program a melody in octave 5 or 6, it will open up that cutoff and sound like a different instrument than the bass. We'll continue to use step edit for this. We'll hold Shift and Step to go back into step record mode, reset to start at the beginning, and run to start playback. That's how you make a bass line, melody, kick, and snare drum all come out of a single Mother-32. There are a few knobs that are particularly fun to play with in keyboard mode now that you have this patch built. The frequency knob will change the pitch of the bass and the melody without messing with the drums too much. The pulse width and the cutoff will give you a lot of sonic variation, and the VCA mode and decay are fun to change the note lengths. If you have any questions or would like us to go over anything else in the future, please leave it in the comments below.